Hey everybody, this is Mark Smith, host of Digital Roughnecks, and my co-host is here, David Conley. Hey, David.
Hey, how we doing?
Good. So I'm here with our very special guest, Mehdi Korjani, who is the director of AI for CleanConnect, a company that David and I are a part of. We found Mehdi actually, when we were looking for, in the top developers across the whole world, and then those that understood AI, and then those that understood oil and gas within AI. Okay, so Mehdi really is, I would call, a gold-plated unicorn, right? So
All the
very,
boxes.
very rare skills, and anyway, talk about how you, Mehdi, how you got into AI, why you decided to pursue that, and how you got connected with oil and gas.
Um, so it started years ago when I was mostly doing the machine learning, and then one of the funds that I got during the PhD for the fellowship was coming from the Chevron. So that is the moment that I introduced to the problem that oil and gas has, and then because my background was machine learning, I tried to solve most of those problems using the machine learning algorithm. So most of my PhD, I spent time on thinking how to solve some of those challenging problems that oil and gas has in order to solve it with the machine learning. So I spent those time during my PhD, and then after I graduated, I work for Chevron in order to develop and deploy some of those models that I was working on in the actual field. So give you example, they have, so the Chevron that I was working was in the Bakersfield. And then they try to extract oil from ground for many years. It's more than 100 years. Uh, for after sometimes those wells stop producing oils, and then they inject water, and then inject water in order to get oil out of it, and then after a while even the water doesn't work, and they have to inject a steam. So you can see that the problem is getting complicated and more complicated.
Right.
I don't know if you want me to go through the details, or you want me to talk
Yeah.
general about my background. Uh, but I was very excited about working on that project. Uh, the project, actually my advisor and then one of his students was working on, and then I was joined to that project in order to deploy it into the field. The problem is like how to open the valve in order to get um, most of the oil out of the field. So they inject the gas into the field, they close the valve, let it sink, and then open the valve in order to get the oil out of the well with the gas. So think about it as a can of Coke, right? So you shake it a lot, and then you open the cap. So how much you have to open the cap in order to get maximum Coke out of that can,
Okay.
right? So that is very hard problem, and then
Sure.
there is no way that you can do it without AI. And the model that has been developed and then patented and then deployed into the field shows that more than 15% increase in the productions if you use the AI. So that is one of the models that has been deployed and then add some uh, economic advantages. And then by that time I said, okay, this is very cool that you can get something from your coding and then deploy it, and then you can see the results,
Yeah.
and then see how it can transfer some of those industry that is working for a long time, and then they are not exposed to the AI before, and then AI can um, add lots of value.
Sure.
So
So whenever you're saying, sorry, Mark. I
Well,
had.
yeah, I was going to ask the question you're probably going to ask, which is,
Oh, okay.
yeah, he just mentioned three different things. So,
Right.
we'll have this slide that kind of, maybe you could walk us through this slide to explain, what do you mean by AI, machine learning models, that kind of thing?
So AI is the general umbrella of everything under it. You can call it as an AI, but I haven't seen any companies that actually doing the AI. Most of the companies are doing the machine learning stuff. And I would say that with 95% accuracy that they are trying to learn from the data. They
Okay.
have some data, and then that data, and then we can talk about what I mean by learning. But generally, when we talk about some software engineer, some software package that learn from the data, and then can solve some problems for the data that has not been seen before, that is the machine learning.
So is a human being actually coding a machine learning model, or is it the machine that's teaching the machine? Does that make sense? Does that question make sense?
So the question is more like what we do in order to help the machine learn from the data,
Okay.
right? So we
Right.
generally code the algorithms that, okay, what we can consider as AI or machine learning is like you have the piece of software, and that piece of software try to find some patterns from the data, and then when you can do that, then that machine is learning from the data,
Okay.
and then what we call it as a machine learning, right? So the human so most of the data scientists and machine learning engineers try to put that algorithms, and then that algorithms go inside the data, because the data is huge, right? So
Right.
think about it that every industry, every section of the industry are collecting more and more and more data, right? And then it is impossible for human to look at all of those data,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we can have piece of a software and then tell them, okay, what we are interested in, and then run this piece of the software on all the data in order to extract those patterns, right?
Right.
So the challenge and the excitement is that extract those patterns that are compatible with the human intuition. And then when we have those, then we can apply to the new sets of data that we haven't seen, we haven't collected in the past, right? Think about all the industry. I can think about, for example, the speech recognition. You have piece of speech as audio file, and then you tell the machine that what you are looking for, what are the patterns, and that patterns is mapping, for example, that piece of the audio to the text. For human, it's very easy, right? So
Right.
we can listen to something and they say, okay, this is the text that actually is inside that audio file,
Sure.
right? For the machine, it should be from massive amount of data, and that machine learn that mapping from the audio files to the text files, right? So we have to provide that information to the machine, so that machine start learning, and then after a while, there are speech recognition algorithms that works very well, and then probably everyone is using it every day. But that is the mapping from that piece of the audio to that piece of the text, and then they deploy it and then they use it. I can think about, for example, autonomous driving. Same
Right.
thing, right? So human driving the car, see the stop sign. This is the stop sign. This is another car. This is another person.
Mm-hmm.
When we have this massive data set, and then someone sit and then tag those data set before that, say that, okay, if this is the, for example, image, this is a stop sign, this is another person, this is another car, and then try to have the algorithms in order to teach the machine that, okay, this is the mapping. You have to go there, look at all of those images, look at all of those for example, a stop sign, and then find a pattern that map this image to that stop sign.
So we had a real practical example, right? So an operator asked us to, automate gate operations, right? So a car enters a gate, we read the license plate, we check it against a white list of vehicles, we open the gate or notify exceptions. So here's a truck. And so what are the things you got to deal with, right? To tell the computer, ignore everything except for this little rectangle here with a license plate, and then read the numbers. So there's a lot of stuff it has to learn.
Right. So before I jump into that, for example, specific problem, I would say that where we can use the AI, right? So
Yeah.
there are general rules that people in the AI community mostly talk about with the outside AI community.
Sure.
That if there is something that human can do with less than a second thinking, then we can have the AI to solve it or do it for the people. So think about your application, right? If someone's sitting at the and they're looking at the licenses, instantly they can recognize the license and they write the number, right? So probably we can have the software in order to do that, have piece of the machine learning algorithms in order to do that. Right. In order to solve this problem, it is not only one machine learning algorithms that can be solved. So think about it as a modular pieces of the AI that different data science and data engineers are working on. The first part is can be the image processing one, right? So image processing, can we find piece of the image that is similar to the license, right? So that is, for example, one of the sections that we have to solve. The other section is that, okay, we have find this part of the image, how we can extract the letters from this image, right? They call it OCR.
Okay.
And then that is the huge community that mostly work on lots of PDFs, lots of images, all of those old book that someone scan, and then they try to extract the letters and then digits out of it. Same algorithms. We can use OCR in order to extract the letters and digits from this piece of image that contain the license, right?
So it's like you're actually doing three models in one. One, you have to recognize the image. Two, you have to recognize that there's a plate there or not there, and then three, you have to recognize DOCR, the object character recognition.
Right. Yeah. So it is everywhere, right? So think about, for example, the chatbot. If one chatbot can work, it has lots of different pieces, and then each of these pieces has a specific AI, and then a specific community is working on. The chatbot, the first part is that can we, for example, have the speech to text. The second part is that what is that speech is talking about. The third part is that how we can do information retrieval from all of those data set that we have in order to match the best results. It is like a search or something like that, and then find some solution, and then how we can translate it back to some sentences that we can send it to the user. And then, for example, the last piece could be that speech to text, that how we can change that speech to text, right?
Yeah.
So when you are talking to the Siri, for example,
right,
it has more than, I would say, in range of a couple of hundreds different AI models that working together in order to help you to answer that question. So it is not one piece of the software. Different group is working over the different pieces, and then each group trying to improve that pieces so the general pipeline can be improved.
So for anybody interested in learning more about how to apply machine model, machine learning, AI to their oil and gas problems, feel free to visit digitalroughnecks.com and also CleanConnect.ai. For more information, we'll be happy to set up a one-on-one strategy session.